Hello, Fat Guy Flies RC here. Well, you can see right here I have a brand new Marlin put together. Now, I had done the post-mortem of the crashed Marlin, and in that video I said in the comments that I would definitely do a build video. Well, I did do a build video, but unfortunately I thought I hit the record button on the GoPro, and there is a flashing red light that tells me I'm recording. Did I pay attention? No. Did I think it was recording? Yes. Did the entire build video, went through all the steps, explained everything I was doing, and never was recording anything. So, sorry. So, basically, I didn't mean to rob you all of that, but I've already got her together. And I know the camera is working now. So I figured I'd do a post-build kind of a wrap-up video. Now, the Marlin goes together incredibly simple. You'll be using the unboxing is really, truly nothing. I mean, you got your wing in, it's all packed in with nice styrofoam. Everything is secure. Like a lot of your Arrows models, everything's wonderfully packed. You just undo your tape, take the styrofoam pieces, the wing comes out first, then the fuselage and your horizontal stabilizer. Everything is in little pockets. And the only other thing you've got is your landing gear, which pop in, and then your screws. Now there is there's a total of 8 screws. They're all the exact same screw. They're all the exact same length, and you'll need a 2mm hex drive wrench to put it in. You can see that right there, and that's what it looks like. A hex drive, and that's what you use to assemble a Marlin. You also will need to have a small, of course now I don't have one right here where I can see it, a small Allen wrench, if at all possible. I should have one sitting here somewhere. It's not absolutely necessary, but you're going to need to get you one anyways. A lot of your Dynam kits and other kits come with these little Allen wrenches. I don't know the exact diameter, just a little Allen wrench. And what it is these grub screws. Let me show you. The grub screws that are in this landing gear right here, you'll need a little Allen wrench just to make sure that they're nice and tight. Okay? And that's all. There's just a little Allen wrench. You'll just have to get the size. I'm sorry. The landing gear is very similar to the E-Flite Trojan 1.1 meter in that you just simply, the landing gear pops in and then slides into those grooves. And you'll know you got the right one because you notice how the landing gear kind of rakes back a little bit. So it only fits that one way. The other thing, and this is already attached for you, the nose gear. All of the control surfaces are already hooked up. They're in the best position. You don't want to move them. I'm telling you, leave them alone. And the rudder is already taken care of. So all you have to do, there are 2 servo leads underneath here. When you slide in your horizontal stabilizer or elevator, there's 2 servo leads, okay? Light to light, dark to dark. Hook them both up because they are for both of your elevator servos. They have a little locking mechanism, locks them in place. You want to get your little flat, like a popsicle stick, to shove them down that channel, slide that in, and then turn your rudder to one side. Let me go ahead. To one side to give you access to that hole there. Okay, and put that first screw in, then the other screws go in here, and your tail's put in together. Okay, you've got a total of 2 Ys. They're already hooked up, coming out of the wing. One Y for your flap, and 1 Y for your elevator, for your ailerons. Basically, got 4 wires combined into 2 wires and you'll just dip those in down into a hole in the fuselage, and then you'll drop your wing in. Make sure they feed in through to the fuselage, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of those metric screws that you use that 2mm hex drive and secure your wing on. And basically at that point, your Marlin's put together. Now, for me, now if you're wondering how shiny this is, because I've put a clear coat on it. I've got a Roaring Top 4S. Okay, now the CG on this plane, as you can see this little point here of the decal, just imagine a straight line going out, and that is right about there, and that's where the CG mark is. I put little Sharpie marks, so just imagine it's about 80 to 90 millimeters from the leading edge here back, which puts it perfectly even with the tip of that decal right there. So just imagine that, go straight out, and I got my little marks there. Got marks there. Okay, and let me see where am I at there. I really should put like a little something I can feel, but that's just about perfect. Well, I don't have my canopy on too, but anyways, that's where it's at, straight across there. I do have I could pull this battery a little bit forward too if I wanted to, but I like to have my battery on the furthest point back on my CG in order to, yeah, see, that's just about perfect. Am I right there? Yeah, I'm pretty much right there. So there you go. But anyways, what I have done, I got it, like I said, I got the Roaring Top. In the cavern, I've got this little bar put right here. And that little bar is just a little piece of popsicle stick I've hot glued in there to prevent the battery accidentally going backwards or the stuff flopping around and hitting the bind button on my AR630. I've got an AR630 antennaless receiver in there. That's the first time I've used this kind of receiver. I'm completely new to the game with this type of receiver. So this will be, when I do the maiden on this, hopefully sometime soon, I'll be learning it for the first time. Now, what you do in order to use this programmable receiver is you're going to go ahead and make a base model. Go ahead and bind it up. Make sure all the control surfaces work correctly. Work out all your trim. Make sure all your trims, and by the way, everything was trimmed perfect out of the box. The only thing I had to do was I had to raise the flaps just a few clicks on the radio just to make sure they were nice and level. Other than that, everything, all the servos were centered perfectly. And if I remember right, the other Marlin, they were the same way. So you're probably not going to have any problem with trim after you put it together. Everything was spot on. Well, anyways, once you get it all basically controlled by your receiver or your transmitter, okay, you've got throttle, ailerons, rudder, elevator, flaps, and everything works correctly. Everything's in the right direction. Make sure you have yourself a throttle cut. And you're going to have, and this is only for people with Spectrum receivers and obviously a Spectrum AR630. You're going to go on here until you see forward programming. And it literally tells you what to do. Okay, now I'm only using it for the AS3X. I could also follow the steps for safe. Now, there is a great video on how to do this, and I will put a link, a Spectrum link, in the description of this video of how to step by step how to do it. It's a lot to explain, but it's not hard. Basically, you could do it without the video, without anything. If you just get this model ready, as I said, basic, ready to function with no other features, and then go in here to your forward programming and just follow the instructions. And literally, you can do it. And I have there's a point where you can assign a switch for the gains. Now, those of you who use AS3X or gyros or stabilization of any type know that if you have too much gain, in other words, too much correction, okay, then your airplane is going to oscillate on you. So you want to be able to dial that down. You can do that electronically through the screen, or like I've done, set it up on a knob here. Okay, and that way, if I know, hey, I'm oscillating too much on the fly, I can turn it down a little bit, and the gains aren't quite so great. Or if I don't think I'm the stabilization against the wind is not enough, then I can turn it up a little bit. But that's something I'll have to play with at the field. I'll start at very little gains, very little deflection, and or correction, and then I'll move it up until I'm happy with the way it's flying. On days when there's no wind and no cross breeze, I might want to just turn it all the way down. And on days when there is a lot of wind, it's kind of, I might want to put it up a little bit so the plane reacts better in the wind. Now that's of course entirely up to you, and that's more of an advanced thing. So you beginners are like, what the heck are you talking about? But I will put a link to that video. It's a Spectrum video. It's done by Spectrum and Horizon Hobby. And it does a great explanation. In fact, they use they're showing that you can take a plane that is a plug-and-play plane that is not even an E-flite plane, and they use the FMS CJ6, which I have, and they put this receiver in that, and it flies like a bind and fly E-flite plane with safe select and stabilization and all that. He explains very simply how to do this. So I'm going to put a link to that video. Watch that video. That's what I watched to get a little heads up on how to do it. But at the same time, if you've got a computerized Spectrum on the new generation, and you've upgraded the firmware, and then if you've got if you've got the forward programming option, then you're already there. All the new NX6s and all that, they already have that. If you have like mine, the second generation Spectrum 9 or DX9 or the any of the you just have to upgrade the firmware, which is nothing more than getting your SD card out, plug it in your computer, going to the Spectrum website, update, and then putting your receiver and letting it update on its own. Which that's a totally different subject matter, but it's not hard to do. If I can do it, anybody can do it. But anyways, so that's the basic idea of what I've done here. So when I go to do a maiden on this, it'll be first time using this type of receiver. Obviously, I'll do a range test first. The only thing I've done performance-wise with this Marlin here is I taxed around the driveway just to make sure, you know, and of course it was perfect. And so that's pretty much it. I know I'm leaving stuff out. I've shown in past videos with other Marlin, this is the same plane. You can run it on a 3-cell. It needs to be a decent 3-cell. Okay, like maybe a 2700 milliamp with at least a 30C or better discharge rate. And but it's like pulling a banner or something. Just like flying, dragging your feet in sand. It will fly on 3-cell, but it just flies on 3-cell. It's like it's having the hardest time getting itself up off the ground. And if those of you who are looking to fly a jet, you're not going to be happy with it. You're going to think, why would I go 3-cell? But you can, okay? If you're a beginner and you're really wanting to you can fly this jet on 3-cell. It's going to be very slow, but you're not going to have the power to get yourself out of trouble. If you get yourself in trouble, you need to have that power. So I suggest flying it on a 4-cell like it's designed for, and then just fly a little slower. You know, remember, altitude and speed is your friend as far as with a jet. You need to get up a little high. If you're going to fly slow to get used to it, get up high. But you need to keep the air going over the surface, otherwise she's going to crash on you. But this particular airplane is very stable, can be a little bit floaty, but it is a jet, so it does need me to keep moving. And it's not going to be like a timber and you can get up and let go, or a glider and you just let go and let it glide down. No, you need to fly it. So, but this is a jet, so there you go. But I run anywhere from a 2200 4-cell up to, I could probably even fit a 3000, but I have some 2600s and 2700s 4-cells that I like that I'll put in here, and that's probably what I use primarily. But 2200, I have a lot of those in 4-cell, so I'll be using that. And I like to have a little bit back further than what the manual calls for. I like my CG to be not tail heavy, but more towards the rear. That way when my landings, they're a little easier. They're a little easier. Gives you a little less authority with your nose gear, so you have to be aware of that. It may bounce a little bit in the front, so just be aware of that. I have my throws set to 100% throws with 30% expo all the way around, and that's the way I like it. I have my flaps as of right now. Let me just show you how I have my flaps. Okay, my takeoff flaps are set on the DX radio, or on DX radio, on my Spectrum transmitter. My takeoff flaps are a negative 40% with 10% down elevator. And then my landing flaps, look at those things. They drop almost all the way down. They're down. They're a positive 75% with a 25% down elevator. Now, those down elevator settings for the elevator for landing and takeoff, I will play with those in the field. I'm going to start with those, okay? And it's just the way this is set up here. So remember, for my takeoff, I've got negative 40% on the flap system. And then for landing, I've got positive 75%. Okay, and then for no flaps or flaps up, negative 100%. Okay, with no elevator mixed in, obviously. But folks, let me explain a little bit something about flaps while we're talking about flaps. People say, well, what are your flap system? What are your flap system? Well, a lot of are your settings, and that's my flap settings, but it changes from model to model. There is no universal flap setting for every plane. The idea for flaps, landing flaps, are meant, or think of them as air brakes. You're trying to slow the plane down. You definitely need that with a jet when you're coming in for landing. Okay, takeoff flaps are meant just enough for the plane when she's going down the runway and you're giving her that full speed, or you're giving her that heavy throttle. The takeoff flaps, should be just enough to make the plane gently rise on its own without you having to use elevator. Okay. Otherwise, you just use your elevator. But that's what the takeoff flaps. They should give you just a nice, gentle rise, and then engage your up elevator and get her up out of the way. So the idea is you get the plane to go up, and you have clearance for your tail, and you start going up, right, with your elevator. So that's what the whole idea of takeoff flaps, just a nice, gentle rise on its own, okay? And then, of course, takeoff flaps is just meant to slow your butt down so that you can come in and get a little nose up and set down on your mains, and then settle in with your nose. That's just landing flaps, just slowing you down. Think of it as air brakes. Now, the way your elevator mix comes in, like I say, this is entirely subjective to where you put your battery, where your CG is, the weight of your batteries. Your batteries may weigh differently than mine, so my flap settings may be different than yours, okay? But I've explained to you the basic idea of flaps. The way you tell how much elevator mix is, you have to fly the damn thing. You got to fly the plane, okay? You take it up, you put in your takeoff flaps or your landing flaps when you got her up high, and if she suddenly balloons on you, then you need more down elevator mix, obviously, okay? If she starts to dive too quickly, then less elevator mix. And there are some planes that you don't put any mix in at all. Flaps only. You don't do anything with your tail. Just the way the plane is. But you need to test that with every plane. A general rule of thumb, what I like to do, if I do 25% of takeoff flaps, then I'll do about 5% of down elevator. If I've got 50 or 100% of landing flaps, for the most extreme, then I may do 22 to 25% elevator. And that's my basic idea for all planes. And then I'll adjust there accordingly with the plane. So just a much less percentage, maybe a fifth of whatever you do to your flap, a fifth of what you do to your elevator. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. But if the manual calls for no flap mix at all, then don't do any flap mix at all. And actually, I didn't read the manual, so I don't know what this one did. But anyways, there's the Marlin. It's a little shinier because I did put that clear coat on there. And you can hear that. That's the gyro or the stabilization working. And I've got it dialed way down. So I could put safe in there, but I'm not going to. And well, there you go, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure I left some stuff out, but the build was insanely simple, very fast. And I really look forward to mating this bad boy and see how she flies with this new AR-630 receiver in it. And the AR-620, the little boxy ones, they were great strong range. I highly recommend it. And the little 4-channel ones, the AR-410s, I guess that's what they are. They great, same thing, just 4 channels, and they're awesome also. But there you go, folks. That is the Marlin. And woo! She got power. In fact, let me show you. Let me show you a little bit. Plenty of power. Plenty of power. As Brian Phillips says, she got power. And she's gorgeous. All right, folks. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. God bless y'all.